right, last video of the day. So you should be getting ready to submit your literary analysis by the end of this week. So I wanted to go over some kind of guidelines for submitting and formatting your paper. So there are three content pages that you need to look at. The first one is formatting your paper for submission. We are going to format this paper according to MLA guidelines. So that means it needs to be 1-inch margins all around. You want Times New Roman 12-point font. You want to double space the entire paper, headings, title, text, everything. The whole thing is double spaced. Um, you also want to use a title that's specific to your paper's purpose and content. And we'll talk about that here more in just a second. And then also don't forget a header that includes your last name and the page number. If you don't know how to add a header in Google Docs, be sure to Google, right? Just Google adding a header in Google Docs and walk through those steps. And then finally, you want to format your headings according to MLA. So if you scroll down, you'll see a model paper below that formats the paper that has the heading at the top. That is not replicated on every page, it's just on the first page. So you can see that there for you. The other kind of tip or strategy that I want you to think about and employ is I want you to think about an effective title. So typically, academic papers have very specific titles. You're going to see the importance of that this week when you start working on your annotated bibliography. And in your annotated bibliography, you're going to need to locate resources in the library databases. And if you'll notice when you're looking at those sources, the papers have very specific titles. Because imagine as a scholar and as a researcher, you're looking through tons of sources and source material for writing your paper. And you don't want to spend a lot of time reading a paper or reading an article that doesn't really relate or isn't germane to your research focus. And so authors include very specific titles so that a reader knows exactly what it is they're going to find in this paper so they don't waste their time if it's not really relevant to their research interests. So for this paper, I want you to practice a very specific title. So looking at the content page, think about which of these three titles is more specific: environmental sustainability, or ecotourism and environmental sustainability, or identifying problems, right? That's the purpose related to water and air pollution with ecotourism. Do you see how the last title both includes the purpose, which is to identify problems, and the content, water and air pollution in ecotourism? So think about for this paper a very specific title. A specific title probably wouldn't be literary analysis, right? Or it wouldn't be avatar, but a more specific title would include words like literary analysis. It would also need to include King's North, and it would also need to include the title of your film. So for this paper, make sure you have either literary analysis or analyzing as the keyword, an examination, an analysis, analyzing. You need some of those keywords from the prompt, including the book and the film that you're going to be discussing in this paper. So be sure to work on that. And then finally, you also need to be sure to format your works cited page. Now, everybody needs to have a works cited page for this paper. Your works cited page needs to include at least two sources. You'll have the book, you'll have the film. So if you don't know how to cite the book, you want to look ahead to chapter 15. And in chapter 15, the author, 15 or 16, the Michael Palmquist includes an entire chapter about how to cite a book on your MLA works cited page and in the paper itself. Also, you want to make sure that you have a works cited page at the end of your paper. And so if you'll notice on the content page, there's an example of what a works cited page would look like for this paper. But you need to have a works cited page with at least two sources. Now, if you used any outside research for this paper, like maybe you looked at movie reviews or you looked at some of the facts and figures related to your film, maybe the box office success or movie critics' responses to the film or opening weekend box office numbers, make sure you cite that source in the paper and on the works cited page. And so that might be citing a website, for example, if you look in chapter 16, or it might be citing your textbook or Confessions of a Recovering Environmentalist. But you need to have specific titles, you need to have specific headings, you need to have your paper MLA formatted. And if you don't get it right this first time, that's okay. I'll make comments on your paper, the final draft of it, and you can always go back and revise it again to get it correct. All right? Let me know if you have any questions.